Okay, thank you so much for coming today for to learn how to read your SMECO and Washington gas bills. My name is Brandy Nealon. I'm the Director of Consumer Assistance, and I'm also joined by Jonah Baskin, our Assistant People's Counsel. Now, first, we're actually going to start with charges that are going to appear on both bills before we actually look. And we are going to take a look at both the bills. But we wanted to kind of set the stage for a couple of charges that you'll see on your SMECO bill, your Washington gas bill, and honestly, any utility bill in the state. So first we're going to see the commodity charge. So this can be, this is sometimes called a fuel charge or a supply charge. It's basically for the gas or the electricity that you're actually using. So the amount of gas that we use, the gas molecules, those are actually measured in therms. And then the amount of electricity used, that's going to be measured in kilowatt hours. Now, the utilities actually get the gas and electricity through competitive procurements, which are regulated by the Public Service Commission. So commodity costs, the cost of the actual supply that you're using, they can go up, they can go down with the market, and that sort of lowers or raises your overall bill. Now, the cost of your electricity supply from SMECO generally changes monthly, but it's also known as the standard offer service price. So, in the charge on your bill for electricity, so for SMECO in this case, the standard offer service price is going to include the utilities cost to actually purchase the energy itself, the cost of transmission service, so getting it from far away closer to us, the utilities administrative costs to purchase the electricity, and then there's also some taxes that are tossed in there. It also includes uncollectibles from the previous year and a markup for the utilities. The uncollectibles are like the outstanding bills from other customers from the previous year. Now, the cost of gas, that's going to be based on market purchases by the utility, and that also changes every month. But it is a little bit more unpredictable than pricing for the electricity. So that's your commodity or supply charge. Like I said, they have different names, but it all kind of means the same. Fuel charge, same thing. Next is the distribution charges. So that's going to include the cost of the utilities infrastructure that serves customers and also the utilities operational cost. So when I say utility infrastructure, what does that mean? So it's going to include things like the pipes, the towers, the wires, computers, and other equipment and infrastructure the utility needs to actually deliver the gas or the electricity to your house. So most of the distribution charges that are on your bill make up the utilities. It's known as rate base, which is basically just the dollars spent on projects and equipment that replace or expand the utilities infrastructure that haven't yet been paid for. So the utilities profit actually largely depends on the size of its rate base, and customers also pay for the taxes, or excuse me, for the utilities taxes on its profits through the distribution charges. So to be honest, the distribution charges do tend to increase over time. Now, the utility distribution charges are set by the Public Service Commission in rate cases, and this is where our office typically shows up to represent your best interest when it comes to those distribution charges. So, when we see distribution charges, again, it's the cost of actually getting the energy into our homes, and it's typically collected through both volumetric, so how much you're using, and then a customer charge, which is this next one down here. So the customer charge is a fixed fee. It's going to be a flat monthly fee. Every residential customer pays it regardless of how much or little gas or electricity they use. So you could use, $100 worth of supply and still pay whatever the customer charges. I'm going to make it up, $13 versus $10 of supply. It doesn't matter. You're going to pay the same exact customer charge, both of you. All right, other charges we're going to see. The Empower charge. This is a really important charge, and I hope if everyone walks away with only one thing today, you remember this. This surcharge supports programs to promote energy efficiency, like rebates for energy efficiency appliances, home energy audits, and other programs like that. So every month, and you'll see it, we'll see it on the bill, you pay a charge for Empower every month, and it is a program that you should be taking advantage of if you're interested. So for one, everyone should be eligible for a free home energy audit where they come in and kind of take a look, give you things like, energy efficient power strips, new light bulbs, low flow shower head, things like that. But then they also have larger programs. Again, if you kind of contact your utility, they can tell you about them. But these are programs that you already pay for, so you should be participating in them and getting the benefits from. Next is the Maryland Universal Service Program. Now, this is going to support a program called EUSP, and it's support for low-income households to help them pay their electricity bill. This is a flat fee. I want to say it's 32 cents off the top of my head, but we'll take a look. But everybody pays this every month. And then lastly, we're going to see some local taxes. So while the distribution charges cover the utilities tax obligation related to their profits, there's still probably going to be local taxes on a separate line item on your bill. And then the last two, before we get into looking at these bills, the environmental surcharge. This is going to go to things like the Maryland Energy Administration and the things that they oversee. An example that we put on here is like the Power Plant Research Program. And then there's also the franchise tax. This is just sales tax for the utility service. All right, so first we're going to take a look at SMECO. This is the normal look at the SMECO bill. I'm just going to kind of walk through it. Some of these things are more obvious than others, but we're still going to kind of call them out. So the bill date, this is the date that the bill was actually created, like the day that it was actually printed. Below that is going to be your account holder information and your account number that is specific to you. A little further down under the account summary, we have the service address, the previous balance, which was your last bill due, then any payments received, including the date in which they were received, and your last payment made. Now, under the balance, it's going to include any outstanding balance, so anything previous that maybe, if in this example, if you didn't pay off the 145, if you only paid 45 of that, you would see $100 here. And then the current charges and adjustments would include both. So if you hadn't paid, it would be 261 instead. So that's the total amount due. So then it's going to go down to the total, which is everything added together, which should match the big number at the top. Okay. So over under the usage profile, this is going to break down your annual usage, and it gives you an average daily usage for the month, which is kind of nice. Now, the bar represents the number of kilowatt hours used that month in electricity. Now, if you have a higher than normal bill, like if you come and you look and you're like, wow, that seems really high this month, this is always the first place that I encourage folks to look. Just make sure you understand your usage. Now, if you're like, this has got to be wrong, you can actually contact your utility and ask if they can check your meter. So they'll come out and check your meter. Now, if they come out and they don't find anything wrong and you're like, I don't know, I still disagree, you can actually file a complaint with the Public Service Commission, and that information is going to be later on in this presentation, where to file a complaint. But you can request, it's something called a meter referee test for, I think it's under $20. So a third party will come out and independently check your meter to make sure that's running right and give you a printed report as well as SMECO, a printed report. And then I just want to highlight this, under the did you know, there's a couple of interesting things here. This is this is an older bill, but it's the same format. This is the SOS price. So this is the price that you'd be paying now for a kilowatt hour. And this price, like I said, does change monthly. And they always typically mention extensions and plan options down here as well. Okay, so this is kind of the meat of it. This is our meter number. The meter number is specific to you, and they're going to include the date that it was read. This is typically done, like I said, through a smart meter, but not all of them, not all of SMECO actually has smart meters. So it could be that it's done in person or through estimated billing. What they do here is they do a previous read and a current read. They take your last meter read and subtract your current meter read, which is in kilowatt hours, and that's actually how they come up with your usage during the billing period. Now, this is a multiplier. So a meter multiplier, it could just be one. This is an adjustment based on the meter you might have. So there's different types of meters, and it's going to measure things differently. So it might require a multiplier. And then it's going to come up with the number of kilowatt hours you actually use during the billing period. So the billing period, this is 30 days here, but this is not always the same. Like maybe it's 30 days this time, maybe it's 29 next, maybe it's 35 the next time, who knows? It's going to range, but typically it falls between 28 and 31 days. It's really just an operational issue. It just spreads out the issuing of bills over the course of the month for the utility company. So let me come down here a little bit. Now, standard offer service, we talked about this. This has to do with the actual energy that you use. This is that commodity charge, that fuel charge, and it's going to come under here. So there's two big charges they're talking about here. The energy charge, that's how much you used. So this is, in this case, 1382, which is right up there, kilowatt hours times, this is the price. This is the supply price for this month. This is the SOS, that standard offer service price. Now, next is the power cost adjustment. Now, this is actually specific to SMECO, and you don't see these on the other utility bills. Your price for electricity changes monthly. Many of the other ones actually change every 6 months. So this charge actually accounts for the fact that their kind of portfolio of wholesale power purchases is changing all of the time. So the adjustment reflects the change in their portfolio. So in this case, looks like this person got a credit. Next is the distribution. So this is going to be all the stuff it takes to get to your house, the energy to your house. So we have a couple of things here. So the facilities charge, this is actually code for the customer charge, that flat fee. See how it's not multiplied by anything? This is your customer charge. The distribution charge is that volumetric charge. So we can see the 1382 times, and this is the actual charge for it. So this is that everything that it costs to get to your house. This is the huge chunk of it. That's the volumetric piece. This is an interesting one. This is found on a couple of different ones. This is the bill stabilization adjustment, and it's kind of called they call it a normalization calculation. And ultimately, what it's saying is no matter how cold or warm it is, the distribution system, all the stuff it takes to get it to your house, it still costs the same to maintain. So instead of charging you for what happens to be maybe an unseasonably hot or cold month, they charge what it would have cost if it would have been the month's normal or average temperature. I know it's a little confusing, but that's what it's for. It's to take a look at what, like I said, the weather normally is versus something that might have been unseasonable, and and make the adjustment there so that they're not overcharging you or undercharging you because again, that distribution system still costs the same to maintain. The Empower Maryland charge, that is the charge for the energy efficiency programs that you pay for every month. So in this example, this person paid $11 in just 1 month for this. So again, take advantage of those. And then we come down to taxes. So this is the Public Service Commission franchise tax. So this is just to keep, the Public Service Commission running. The electric universal service charge, yep, it was 32 cents. So this is for those low income programs that help folks that are struggling to pay their bills. Everybody kind of puts their 32 cents in the pot every month. And then the Maryland Environmental Surcharge. So that's the one that supports programs under the Maryland Energy Administration. Okay, and then after that, it's those total current charges and adjustments, the date that it's due. It also comes on here. It's a little harder to read. It's in italics and a little bit later, honestly, but it's going to talk about if you don't pay on the date due, you'll be assessed a 1.5% late payment charge. So I would not encourage folks, if it's possible, to pay directly on the due date, especially if you're using a method like mail, simply because they're not going to be looking at the postmark date. They're going to be looking at the date that they actually receive it. So I wouldn't drop my payment in the mail on 8/13 in this case, because you'll more than likely get hit with a late fee. Okay, and then I want to just point it out, the energy efficiency tips, they talk about some of the, let's see, energy efficiency through SMECO's program. A lot of this is funded by Empower. So just make sure, again, to take advantage of that. All right, so we're going to move on to Washington Gas. Again, we're just going to run through it. Some of it's more obvious than others, but we're just going to start at the top. Okay, so we got the total bill and the due date. And again, it talks about the late payment. It's the same exact thing. It's going to be a 1.5% again. So same goes. Try not to pay on April 4th. Try and send it in before then. It's going to tell you your next meter read date. And the same thing is going to apply with those, again, the billing cycles. I think I'm actually going to talk about it over here as well. This is 28 days, as we were just saying. It's normally between 28 and 31, but it can absolutely kind of change over time. This usage chart, it's going to tell you how many days in the period compared to last year, and then the average temperature. Again, this is the first place I would look if you're curious about your usage and if you're thinking that the bill might be incorrect. It's going to, let's see, the account number. Oh yeah, then we have up here where the date, this is the bill that was printed, the period and for which you're paying for on the service address, the balance on your last bill, which again was the last bill due, the payments received including the date, as well as your last payment made and the outstanding balance. It's also going to have those current gas charges. This is kind of very similar to the way SMECO is. So if there was an outstanding balance, it would have been brought down, plus your current. This is what it would have been. So if you only would have paid, again for my mathing, $8 and the $100 came down, you would owe 172 down here, but it would be 172 and then it would come down. This would also, just as a note, this would also look different if you were on a payment plan. Your payment plan information would be here. Again, here's more of the meat of the bill. So the rate class, this is just residential heating versus commercial. You would see it right up here. And then the next read date. We have our meter number, which again is specific to you, and they include the date it was read. Then they take your last meter read and subtract your current meter read, and then they would come up with your usage during this period. Again, this is another great place to check if you're concerned about your usage, just making sure that it's correct, and if it's not, filing a complaint with the Public Service Commission after having your meter checked. Now, we start after we get the current reading, then it says consumption billed CCF. So CCF is 100 cubic feet. CCF is a measure of volume because the meter can't easily test the energy density, purity of the gas. And because it's really therms that are the unit of energy, right? But your meter is reading volume, and then the multiplier converts the volume into energy. So you're billed for the energy, not the volume, which is why we're discussing it in therms, but it's being converted from cubic feet. Now it comes down here, it says total therms used. So there is 28 days, and we have total CCF, so cubic feet, times 1.033. So why are we multiplying it again? So this is called a therm factor. Now, your natural gas utility is constantly testing the quality of its natural gas because there's things like moisture and impurities that can impact the amount of energy it contains. So the therm factor is actually reflecting the amount of energy contained in the gas that the utility delivered that month. So this is actually going to vary month to month, but it really shouldn't be by a lot because the utility's got to be adhering to strict standards regarding gas quality. So, like I said, they take your previous read to get your current, or yeah, your current read minus your previous read to get your current read, and then they bill it in cubic feet, and then they multiply it by a therm factor, and that's how it all kind of comes out and shakes out here. So now we're coming back down. We already saw this on the front page, the previous bill, payment made, and then anything brought forward. And then it's going to break it down kind of again like SMECO. So we have distribution, then we have, this is our supply and our taxes. So we have our three kind of categories. So the distribution charge, there are two lines here. This could be that it spanned over more than 1 month and there was a change in the gas price for the therms. But this is that volumetric charge, so it's based on the amount that you actually used. Then we have a STRI surcharge. This is something we haven't seen before. This is for certain gas capital spending, and it's a special surcharge the utility uses to recover the money faster for those investments. Then there's that Empower Maryland surcharge again. So you're getting hit twice if you're having gas and electric for that program for energy efficiency that you should definitely be taking advantage of. And then we have a system charge. This is just another term for customer charge. Okay, so it's going to be a flat fee. We go to our supplies. This is what you actually used. We have a purchase gas cost. That's all that is. It's kind of like how SMECO had SOS, standard offer service. This is purchase gas cost. And this is the amount of therms you use time that actual cost of the supply. And then we have taxes. There's something specific for Montgomery County. And then the Maryland gross receipts tax surcharge is just sales tax. Then we just bring it down to the current gas charges and then the current gas charges for the period. So that would just be including if there was an outstanding balance. This is the information for the Public Service Commission. So if you are looking at your usage and you're like, something's not quite right, you can file a complaint online. You can request, like I said, a meter referee test. You can also call them, but they like it better if you go online to file that complaint. And this is our information. You're more than welcome to reach out to us if you have specific questions about your bill.